I'm going to talk about today briefly is what London's doing. This is the Olympic year for London, only 5 months away until Games in July, till the opening ceremony. So it's a very big year in terms of getting prepared for the Games, but also importantly, a big year as we're preparing for the legacy of the Games. I think what I really was asked to talk about is what are some of the lessons about how London is approaching this. And I'll speak to this slide in a moment, but I think the most important thing to say is that London's bid for the Olympics was all about the regeneration. It was all about how to use the Olympics, a major event, as a part of the regeneration strategy, that London's growth was moving to East London, which is where the Games will primarily be held. And it was very much about how to use the sports, use Olympics to build an infrastructure and to leave an infrastructure that would then set the stage for the growth of London as London grows from a city of 7 million people to a city that will be 8 million people. So huge pressure on the city. You can see already from the start in London where the success of I think why London will be successful is from the beginning thinking about this kind of evolution of a piece of the city and what that vision is, what you want to create as a new great place. And then you're not trying to figure out later how to literally retrofit the Olympics or retrofit your growth story back to figure out what to do with venues. They're there from the beginning.
We could say that people in Barcelona in 1986, when they were nominated to host the 1992 Olympic Games, they were really afraid of things like white elephants, things like huge debt for a small city. And so the Olympics were planned not as an objective by itself, but especially as an excuse, a powerful excuse to really transform the city, as they did, and as we can recognize it now. In terms of infrastructures, provision, the city changed completely in terms of connectivity, from ICT to ring bells to the new airport, whatever. Also on the visitors' economy, we would be afraid or really surprised knowing that just before the Olympics, Barcelona was not a touristic city at all. There were less than 4% of our GDP was on tourism. Today is about 14%, so huge shift on that period. And also it was used as an excuse for urban development, and that was presented, and that you can see those changes today here at MIPIM on the Barcelona stand, where due to the transformation of the city, 1 million square meters land in the city center were able to be transformed for the new economy. Now, what we can see when we look what's going on internet, which is where things now happen in terms of opinion, we can see that when 2 of the 3 times Barcelona is mentioned on the websites, on the networks, on 2.0 things are mentioned due to sports. Mainly because our football team, maybe because many sports facilities are around Barcelona. You can go to Barcelona for Formula 1, for motorcycles, for high-level tennis, for world championships on different disciplines, and now also for new sports on FX, for instance. So now Barcelona, due to the Olympics, due to its sports ambience or atmosphere, or due to its football, or due to its infrastructures on sports that allowed us to host huge events on sports, Barcelona is known as a sports capital in Europe.
There were a whole range of projects that were in the pipeline, and what the then Mayor of London saw was a series of projects which, if he put a stadium in the middle of those projects, he could translate into an Olympic bid. And why would that be an advantage? Well, the reason that that's an advantage is for one very, very crucial fact. If you win an Olympic bid, you have to deliver by a specific date. There can be no prevarication. Once a bid is won, whether the government like it or not, and I'm not sure that the government was were too happy about the bid when it first went in. They were very happy when they won, eventually. You're committed to delivering the infrastructure. And what we see in Stratford is the most remarkable regeneration project that I've come across in my long career, of an area which was really pretty grim beforehand, but in a very, very short space of time, with much of the key infrastructure, which would normally be delivered over a 50-year period, being delivered within the blink of an eye.
As someone who spends a lot of time in the East, in Asia Pacific, in China, I now, after London and Barcelona, want to take you to Beijing and to remind you of what I think were the extremely successful Beijing Olympics, a dazzling spectacle, a great step in terms of nation building for China, in terms of reintroducing China to the world. About $40 billion were spent by the Chinese government, and even the air quality in Beijing, for those of you who have been, improved dramatically during the event. At the same time, the economic impact, the long-term economic impact on Beijing as a city is extremely unclear. So what we have heard here from London and Barcelona, for some reason, does not seem to be, or is not going to be the case in Beijing. You know, what are the hurdles to overcome in terms of leveraging this rapid technological change? And how can we use a mega sports event to do so? And from a planning point of view, a lot of it has already been answered by my esteemed colleagues here. I just want to quickly look at the role that technology can play in an event and around the event. In the event itself, most of you know and see how the sports event is watched by the spectators all around the world, you know, in hundreds of different angles, all at the same time. So, at the same time, the spectator experience, anything from smart ticketing to targeted advertisement telling you that, you know, 10 seats from you to the right, there's a Hershey's bar or a coffee that you like based on your profile. All these things, all these services, including, frankly, safety and security services, video surveillance, crowd control, managing the flow of people, all of that makes, in the future, increasingly these events smart events. However, all these services, all these devices are connected to the same infrastructure, and you can leverage that same infrastructure for the rest of the affected community, as you're doing now in London with BT. We're actually participating with you on that, and you can roll out the same safety and security with command and control centers all across the, as I said, the affected communities. They've done that in South Africa with lasting effects, because post the World Cup, the successful World Cup, crime stayed down. Other things didn't work, is my understanding, but definitely the impact of the rollout of video surveillance on the city of Johannesburg has been very successful.
What do you think should be the energy or the environmental legacy in places like Qatar and Sochi?
It's a very good question, like Caspar, for me. I have two answers. If I want to win good revenues, I said, well, you find a solution everywhere of the world. But if I take my citizen point of view, I think these two choices of cities for this event are quite difficult for us to find good solution in front of environment aspect. So I think we have to deal with solar energy and transform it in heating, in cooling, and other electricity system in Qatar, for of course, and for Sochi. Perhaps with a geothermal solution, we can look at this. But all over the world, the deal with energy is to find local solution. And I have no answer all over the world today But GDF Suez try to find a solution all over and in front of different aspects of these different cities.